Hello, this is Ms. Howington here at Research Triangle High School. Today we are going to talk about the carbon cycle. So we'll see if I can talk and draw at the same time. All right, so we're going to start off. We have a reserve of carbon in our atmosphere, so lots of CO2 floating around up here in the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide, so the atmosphere is a store of carbon dioxide. And carbon can come out of the atmosphere in a couple of ways. So it can go into plants as part of photosynthesis. But for photosynthesis, we also need some other things like sunlight and water. And then, once plants have done photosynthesis, they output glucose. All right, and so then once the plants have output glucose into their leaves, they use that for energy, and they respire a little bit of carbon back into the atmosphere. This is respiration. And then those plant tissues can either act as a carbon store, so like really big trees that hold on to a lot of their tissues, that acts as a carbon store. Or it can go through the food chain. So we could have maybe a little herbivore eat the plants, and then a bigger animal eat the herbivore. So that carbon is being transferred down the food web. And at each of these steps, we have respiration going on. So each of those things is contributing carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere just by using up that glucose and metabolizing it. And so then we have all of these living things, and eventually all living things have to come to an end. So eventually they will all die. They will all die, and then they could either be decomposed by bacteria and mushrooms or fungi. So they can be decomposed. These decomposers also do respiration, so we're going to add them to our lots of little carbon arrows going back out through respiration. All right, so then our carbon could become that, or if it's not decomposed, then it could be layered under sediment and compressed and become fossil fuels. And then our fossil fuels can be mined or extracted. And then we burn them in our factories. Ooh, writing bad. All right, then we burn them in our factories and in our cars, and that releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So this is taking a store of carbon dioxide that was down here in the fossil fuels and was trapped for millions of years, and we're now releasing it back into the atmosphere. So we have in this drawing, we have three stores. We have the atmosphere, we have really old trees, and fossil fuels. Another store of carbon can be the ocean. So carbon dioxide from the atmosphere can come into the ocean either via wave action, so it can just kind of like be folded in to the water, or it can be dissolved into the water as carbonic acid. And then we have these really cool phytoplankton and algae, well, same thing. And they do photosynthesis, so they're taking this carbon dioxide and the sunlight. They need that too. Carbon dioxide and sunlight, and they're making glucose. And then that glucose is being eaten by larger things in the food web, so like a fish, and then maybe the fish is eaten by something larger, like a shark. Rawr, shark. You can tell I'm not the art teacher. And then, but when those things die at some point, they can either be decomposed by bacteria or they can be layered in sediments down here at the bottom of the ocean, and then also become fossil fuels after hundreds of millions of years. And they can also just be trapped in the sediments down here, so layered in sediments. And then we might later extract them, oopsies. Or it could just stay here in the sediment. All right, so there is the basis of the carbon cycle. If you have any questions, please ask in class, and watch the video again if you need to.